In the previous videos, we already learned about the break statement at various places. We use the break statement with the switch case. We use the break statement with the various loops. Whenever the Java encounters the break statement within the switch body, the control comes out of the switch body. And whenever the Java encounters the break statement within the loop body, the control comes out of the loop body. In this video, we will revise the use of the break statement and also we will use the labeled break in Java. Namaste everyone, I am Gyan and you are watching the third session of Java and Wave Flow of Control. The break statement can be used inside the switch or loop. When the Java encounters a break statement in the loop, it takes out from the innermost loop as we already seen. The break statement cannot be used anywhere else other than the loop or switch. You can see here we are using the break statement. This break statement is not present within any loop or switch. This break statement is the part of the if body. And this if body itself is not a part of any loop or switch. That's how the compiler results an error. Compiler throws a compilation error that break outside switch or loop. This is a task for you to apply this code in a Java program and see what the compiler is saying. Here we are using the break statement in the previously discussed nested loop. This nested loop has been already discussed in the previous video. But that nested loop was discussed without break. So what we are doing in this code, if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2, then the break statement gets executed. The execution starts from the statement integer I is equal to 0. So the current value of I is 0. Now this is the time for the outer loop to execute. Current value of I is 0. We are checking if the current value of I is less than 4 or not. If current value of I, that is 0, is less than 4 or not. Yes, current value of I, that is 0, is less than 4. So body of the outer while will execute. This is the first iteration of the outer while and the first statement in the while body is integer j is equal to 0. So we are assigning the initial value 0 to the integer variable j. This is the time for the inner loop to execute. We are checking if the current value of j, that is 0, is less than 4 or not. The answer is yes, 0 is less than 4. So the body of the inner loop will execute. This is the first iteration of the inner loop and this is the first statement in the body of the inner loop. Here we are checking if I is equal to 2 and at the same time if j is equal to 2. Here current value of I is 0 and j is 0. So this condition is false and break statement does not execute. After this statement we have to execute system.out.println value of I and value of j. Current value of I is 0 and the current value of j is 0. So I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 0 gets printed. After that we need to increase the value of j. The current value of j is 0 which has been increased to 1. Now again we need to check if current value of j, that is 1, is less than 4 or not. Yes, the current value of j, that is 1, is less than 4. So the body of the inner loop will execute. This is the second iteration of the inner loop. This one is the first statement of the inner loop and we need to check if I is equal to 2 and at the same time if j is equal to 2. Here I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 1. So this condition fails. We need to print the value of I and value of j. The current value of I is 0 and the current value of j is 1. So it prints I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 1. After that the value of j again gets incremented. Again we need to check if the current value of j, that is 2, is less than 4 or not. The answer is yes, 2 is less than 4. So body of the inner loop will execute and this is the third iteration of the inner while. This is the first statement of the inner while. Here we are checking if I is equal to 2 and at the same time if j is equal to 2. Here the current value of I is 0 and the current value of j is 2. So this expression inside the parenthesis of the if statement returns false. That's how the break statement will not execute. We have to execute the system.out.println statement which prints the value of I and value of j. The current value of I is 0 and the current value of j is 2. So it prints I is equal to 0, j is equal to 2. Again the value of j gets incremented by 1 and the new value of j is 3. We need to check it again. Is the current value of j is less than 4? Is the current value of j, that is 3, is less than 4? The answer is yes. The current value of j, that is 3, is less than 4. So the body of the inner while will again execute. This is the fourth iteration of the inner while and the first statement of the body of the inner loop is this one. Here we are checking if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no. Here the I is 0 and j is 3. So break statement will not execute. We need to print the value of I and value of j. The current value of I is 0 and the current value of j is 3. So it prints I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 3. Again j gets incremented by 1 and the new value of j becomes 4. The current value of j is 4. So we need to check if the current value of j, that is 4, is less than 4. The answer is no. So that's how the inner while comes to an end and the control goes to this statement. Here we increase the value of I by 1. The value of I is now 1. We need to check that if the current value of I is less than 4. If the current value of I, that is 1, is less than 4, the answer is yes. So body of the outer while will execute. This is the second iteration of the outer while. The first statement of the outer while is this one. We need to assign the value 0 to the integer variable j. So the new value of integer variable j is 0. Now we need to check if the current value of j is less than 4 or not. The current value of j is 0. We are checking if the current value of j, that is 0, is less than 4 or not. The answer is yes. So the body of the inner while will execute. This is the first iteration of the body of the inner while and the first statement of the while body is this one. We need to check that if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no. The I is 1 and j is 0. So the break statement will not execute. We need to print current value of I and j. The current value of I is 1 and the current value of j is 0. So it prints I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 0. The value of j gets increased. The new value of j is now 1. We need to check it again if the current value of j is less than 4 or not. The current value of j, that is 1, is less than 4 or not. The answer is yes. So the while body will execute. This is the second iteration of the inner while and the first statement in the while body is this one. We need to check it if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no because I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 1. That's how the break statement will not execute and we need to print the value of I and value of j. The current value of I is 1 and the current value of j is 1. So I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 1 gets printed. The value of j gets increased by 1. So the new value of j is 2 now. We need to check it again if the current value of j is less than 4. If the current value of j, that is 2, is less than 4, the answer is yes. So the inner while body will execute. This is the third iteration of the inner while. The first statement of the inner while body is this one. Here we need to check if the I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. Here the current value of I is 1 and the current value of j is 2. So this condition is false. That's how the break statement will not execute and we need to print the current value of I and j. The current value of I is 1 and the current value of j is 2. That's how we have printed I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 2. Again we increase the value of j. So the value of j becomes 3. We need to check it again if the current value of j is less than 4. The current value of j is 3. The answer is yes. The value 3 is less than 4. That's how the inner while body will execute. This is the fourth iteration of the inner while body and this is the first statement of the inner while body. Here we are checking if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no. That's how the break statement does not get executed and we need to print the current value of I and j. The current value of I is 1 and the current value of j is 3. That's how we have printed I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 3. We need to increase the current value of j by 1 and the value of j becomes 4 now. Again we are checking if the current value of j, that is 4, is less than 4 or not. The answer is no. 4 is not less than 4. That's how the execution of the inner while comes to an end and the control reaches to this statement. Here we need to increase the value of I by 1. So the new value of I is now 2. Again we are checking if the current value of I, that is 2, is less than 4 or not. The answer is yes, the 2 is less than 4. So we need to execute the outer while body. This is the third iteration of the outer while body and the first statement in the outer while body is integer j is equal to 0. So we assign the value 0 to the variable j. We are checking if the current value of j, that is 0, is less than 4 or not. The answer is yes. 0 is less than 4. So the body of the inner while will execute. This is the first iteration of the body of the inner while and the first statement in the body of the inner while is this one. We are checking if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no. Here the current value of I is 2 and the current value of j is 0. So break statement will not execute and we have to print the current value of I and current value of j. Since the current value of I is 2 and the current value of j is 0, so I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 0 gets printed. Now value of j increased by 1 and the current value of j is now 1. Again we are checking if the current value of j is less than 4. Is the current value of j, that is 1, is less than 4? The answer is yes. So the body of the inner while will execute again, and this is the second iteration of the inner while. This one is the first statement of the inner while, and we are checking if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. Here I is equal to 2 but j is equal to 1, so break statement will not execute. We need to print the current value of I and j. The current value of I is 2 and the current value of j is 1. So I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 1 gets printed. Again the value of j gets increased and the new value of j is now 2. We have to check it again. If the current value of j is less than 4, if the current value of j, that is 2, is less than 4, the answer is yes, 2 is less than 4. So the body of the inner while will execute. This is the third iteration of the inner while. The first statement of the inner while is this one. Here we need to check if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is yes. Here the I is 2 and at the same time the j is 2. So here I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. So break statement executes here. When Java encounters a break statement in the loop, then the control comes out of the loop body. That's how the control will come out of here. And I will increase by 1. So the current value of I is now 3. We need to check it again if the current value of I is less than 4. If the current value of I, that is 3, is less than 4, the answer is yes. 3 is less than 4. So outer while loop will execute. This is the fourth iteration of the outer while. If you notice that the printing of I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 and I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 3 has been skipped, we directly jump to I is equal to 3 values. So we are in the fourth iteration of the outer while, and the first statement of the body of the outer while is integer j is equal to 0. We assign the value 0 to the integer variable j. So the new value of variable j is now 0. Here we are checking if the current value of j, that is 0, is less than 4. The answer is yes. 0 is less than 4. So the body of the inner while loop will execute. This is the first iteration of the inner while loop, and here we are checking if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no. I is 3 and j is 0. That's how we need to print the current value of I and j. The current value of I is 3 and the current value of j is 0. So I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 0 gets printed. Again we need to increase the value of j, and the new value of j is now 1. We are checking it now. If the current value of j is less than 4, that means the current value of j, which is 1, is less than 4. The answer is yes, 1 is less than 4. That's how this while body will execute for second time. This is the second iteration of the inner while body. And this is the first statement of the inner while body. Here we are checking if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 at the same time. The answer is no. I is 3 and j is 1. That's how the break statement does not get executed, and we need to print the current value of I and j. Current value of I is 3 and the current value of j is 1. That's how the I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 1 gets printed. We need to increase the value of j by 1 again, and at this time the new value of j is 2. Now we need to check if the current value of j is less than 4. That means the current value of j, that is 2, is less than 4. The answer is yes, 2 is less than 4. That's how the body of the inner while will execute for the third time. This is the third iteration of the inner while body. And the first statement of the inner while body is this one. We need to check if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no. I is 3 and j is equal to 2 here. So the break statement does not execute, and we need to print the current value of I and j. The current value of I is 3 and the current value of j is 2. That's how the I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 2 gets printed. We need to increase the value of j by 1 again, and now value of j becomes 3. We need to check it again if the current value of j is less than 4 or not. The current value of j, that is 3, is less than 4. The answer is yes, 3 is less than 4. That's how the inner while body will execute for the fourth time. This is the fourth iteration of the inner while body. This is the first statement of the inner while body, and we need to check if I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2 simultaneously. The answer is no. I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 3. So break statement will not execute, and we need to print the current value of I and j. The current value of I is 3 and the current value of j is 3. That's how I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 3 gets printed. After that we need to increase the value of j by 1. Now the value of j becomes 4. We need to check it again if the current value of j is less than 4. If the current value of j, which is 4, is less than 4, the answer is no. 4 is not less than 4. So this is how the inner while loop comes to an end and the control goes to the next statement after the while loop. Here we are increasing the value of I by 1, so the I becomes 4. Again we need to check if the current value of I is less than 4. If current value of I, that is 4, is less than 4, the answer is no, 4 is not less than 4. That's how the outer while loop comes to an end and the control goes to the statement after the outer while loop. This is how the execution of the nested while loops with a break comes to an end. Let me try to execute same program with the for loop. Open iteration.java and this is the same program with the for loop. If I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2, then we have to execute break. Save and compile it. Java C iteration.java, compiles fine, then run it. Java iteration, it runs fine and not printing I is equal to 2, j is equal to 2. Even after I is equal to 2, j is equal to 1, the iteration for I is equal to 2 comes to an end and iteration for I is equal to 3 starts. If you see here in this case, when we apply the break in the innermost loop, then we come out the innermost loop. What if we want the control to come out from the outermost loop? Applying only break inside the innermost loop does not take control out from the outermost loop. For that, we need the labeled break. So you can see here we are using the labeled break. L1 is the label. So break followed by a label. When we are using the labeled break, we have to define the label also. From where you want to break. So from here we want to break. We want to break from the outer while. The while followed by the label is the target of the labeled break. So that's how when Java encounters I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2, the control comes out of the outer block and there is no execution after this loop. And there is no further execution of this println statement because the control comes out of the outer loop. So here we get the output up to I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 1. Let me try to execute the same code with the for loop in a Java program. Open iteration.java and write here labeled break. Write here L1. And give the label here before the outer loop. Write here L1. So whenever I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 2, we will come out of the outer loop because the label L1 has been defined before the outer loop. Save and execute this code. Java C iteration.java, compiles fine, then run it. It runs fine and printing I is equal to 0, j is equal to 0 to I is equal to 2, j is equal to 1. We always can give a label to a block. You can see here, this is another program and here we are defining a label and this label does not belong to any block and that's how this is an error. So we only can define the label for a given block. Writing any code between opening and closing bracket is called a block. And the label L1 is defined for this block. Even if there is no switch case or a loop, but we can use the label break statement here. Whenever the Java encounters the label break statement, the control comes out of the block. So this is how the program gets executed. We have the integer variable I is equal to 10 and then we are printing system.out.println hi. So hi gets printed. Now we are checking if I is 10 or not. Here I is already 10. So execute break L1. That's how the control comes out of the block whose label is L1. And after the control comes out of the block, it prints int2. So output of the program is hi and int2. It does not print the int1 because int1 never gets executed. Let me try to execute this code in a Java program. Open iteration.java and this is the same code. Ignore the commented out section and focus on this one only. If I is equal to 10, then the control have to come out the block whose label is L1. And since I is equal to 10, so the control will come out the block whose label is L1. So it will print hi and int2. The int1 will be skipped. Let me save and compile this code. Java C iteration.java, compiles fine, then run it. Java iteration, it runs fine, printing hi and int2. We can use the labeled break statement in the switch body. So we have the switch with the labeled break. For the case 10, the break L1 gets executed. So the control have to come out of the block whose label is L1. In the case of switch case, the compiler at the compile time itself while creating the jump table comes to know that this statement is not going to execute at all. and that's how the compiler throws the error at the compile time. Let me save and execute this code. Java C iteration.java. Compiler throws the error unreachable code system.out.println int 3. Right here if I is equal to 10. Right here if I is equal to 10. Now the compiler will not throw error. Let me save and compile it. Java C iteration.java. Compiles fine, then run it. Java iteration. It runs fine, printing high int 2 and int 4. This int 4 gets printed. One more point you can notice here that the both levels are same. So we can define the same level for the two different blocks. This block also defined as the level L1 and this block, that is switch, is also defined as the level L1. What is a block? A block is an area between opening and closing braces. For example, body of if, else, loop, switch and method are blocks. We can also provide the braces which are not body of if, else, loop, switch and method. They are also blocks. Only a block can have a label. We can only define a label for a block. We can always give a label to a block, and here we are not doing it. We defined a label which does not belong to any block, and that's how the compiler throws the error undefined label L1. This is a task for you to try it in Java program and see what the compiler is saying. The label break should be present in the target block. That means here we are using the break statement break L1, but L1 belongs to this block. Using the label break, the control can come out of only those blocks which contains the break statement. Here this block contains the break statement and this block does not have any label. That's how writing the break L1 caused the compiler error undefined label L1. Does not matter how the block has been nested, but the break with the label should be defined inside that block from which the control want to come out. That's all for this video guys. Don't forget to like and share this video, subscribe this channel if you are new and leave your valuable comments in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.